The comments and statements made within the show are the opinions of the commentators and their guests, have not been evaluated by the FDA, and are in no way attempt to diagnose, treat, mitigate, cure, or prevent any disease or illness. The contents of the show are not to be construed as medical advice. If you have a health condition or health concern, please contact a licensed, qualified healthcare practitioner.
Oh my, what have you found, Franny? Let's see what they say. Latest and greatest. You found more. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Excellent sleuthing, Fran. Fran, I think this is a new case for the Supplement Super Sleuth. Dig, Franny, dig! Time to go down the rabbit hole and see what we can find. Goodness, where are we? Aha! Take a look at this. Hi, everyone. Supplement Super Sleuth here for our next episode. This is episode 31. And we're jamming a little to our jazz intro. Hope you're all doing really well. And I just want to remind everyone that I'll be doing this podcast 4 times a month now, sharing perspectives of natural health and healing, or interviewing key people and thought leaders in the natural healing industry to hear their knowledgeable perspectives. We like that. I have 4 different segments to this show now. So the first is Naturals in the News, where I share general information on brand new research posted on all types of health subjects. You'd never know what I'm going to talk about. My Favorite Things, where I spotlight an herb or supplement with a deep dive into the history, clinical research, and clinical use of our spotlighted subject matter. Naturals in the Know, where I interview key thought leaders and successful holistic practitioners from a wide variety of disciplines. Could be chiropractic, acupuncture, herbalism, naturopathy, energy work. You never know with me, right? And finally, but definitely our newest and certainly most fun new segment, entitled What's Old is New Again, where I share historical information on the weird and the lost healing therapies of old days. And I mean old, thousands of years in some cases. And in this segment, this new segment, I'll share historical information on the weird, the lost, and quite possibly the strangest things you've ever heard of. But all those things are having a renaissance in an updated modern manner. So with all of that said, let's just dive right into our Naturals of the News. Our first headline will be head injury is associated with doubled mortality rate in the long term. So I do want to say this. This is this was posted January 23rd, 2023, and it was found in the Journal of Neuroscience, and an article that's entitled Health Informatics. I do want to say that traumatic brain injury is no joke, and the older you get and the older that brain injury gets, the worse it gets. So most of the time, we've noticed that you could have a concussion, a pretty severe concussion, or a very severe life-threatening head injury. And even if you've survived, you may have 3, 4, 5 years of recovery, but somewhere around year 8 or 10 after a TBI, the wheels can come off the cart, as the saying goes. So this is a really interesting study, and it's really trying to account for the people who've had traumatic brain injury and or severe concussions, and how that adds up to their longevity and their lifelong health and wellness overall. The article starts off by saying adults who suffered any head injury during a 30-year study period had 2 times the rate of mortality than those who did not have head injury. And mortality rates among those with moderate to severe head injuries, that also includes brain surgery, were nearly 3 times higher, according to this new research, which is published in Journal of American Medical Association Neurology. So in the United States, currently there's over 23 million adults over the age of 40 who have reported that they've had moderate to severe head injury where they've lost consciousness. Head injury can attribute to numbers of causes, motor vehicle accidents, sports injuries, unintentional falls, and then also invasive surgeries, brain surgeries, which are probably life-saving, but they do age and they are in this category. What's more, head injury has been linked with a number of long-term health conditions, late onset epilepsy, dementia, and stroke. Now, these studies have previously shown increased short-term mortality with head injuries. But this longitudinal study evaluated over 30 years of data from 13,000 community dwelling participants. So that's people who are not in hospitals or in nursing homes, but are still living and they're aging, to determine if head injuries have an impact on overall lifespan and mortality. And so far, this longitudinal study is showing that that those who had suffered a head injury, 12.4% were recorded as moderate to severe, that their longevity, their life was shortened. So in all cases, in all causes of death recorded, 64.6% of those who suffered a head injury accounted for a higher possibility of death because of that original head injury. So the data revealed that the head injury associated with increased mortality rates, even long term, is a real thing. This is particularly the case for those who've had multiple moderate to severe head injury. So a lot of people in sports and athletics, they knock their noggin quite a bit. And it's really important that we really maintain very high level of safety measures, helmets, seat belts in automobiles, and other ways to prevent head injury. You know, our brains are like Jell-O. They really are. They have the consistency of a Jell-O mold. And if any of you have ever played with Jell-O at all, what's really, really odd about it is even if you touch it just gently, you can leave a fingerprint. And our brain has that kind of consistency. And even though our skulls are there to protect our brains, which it does, you know, you're just a whiplash. You can have reverberation and bruising of the brain. You know, we have to take care of our heads, our brain buckets, like we call helmets brain buckets. Those are really important. The investigators in this article also evaluated data for specific causes of death among all the participants. Of course, this longitudinal study is taking data. But the most common death were cancers, cardiovascular disease, and neurological disorders, which include dementia, epilepsy, and stroke. And among individuals with head injuries, death caused by neurological disorders and unintentional injury or trauma occurred more frequently. So the study data doesn't explain why the cause of death in individuals with head injuries is more likely from neurodegenerative diseases. And that does underscore the need for further research into head injury, longevity, and death. I think it really does pose a true conversation about how do we help people understand the importance of taking care of their brains. It is true that prevention is worth way more than an ounce of cure. Any bit of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Pardon me, I got that backwards. But I think also a real look into hyperbaric oxygen chamber and how it can help with aging traumatic brain injury is important because there isn't a lot. We do have herbs that cross the brain-blood barrier, and there are new drugs on the horizon. However, we do know that consistent hyperbaric oxygen can be a profound supportive tool to an aging traumatic brain injury. If any of you are really curious, there's a football player by the name of Joe Namath. He was big in the way back in the day in the 70s, and he had a lot of traumatic brain injuries during his football career, and he does talk about his experience using hyperbaric HBOT, or hyperbaric oxygen, or oxygen on the peripheral. And he's spoken about it very publicly. So any of you who are really curious about that, please go check it out. I believe it's still out there on YouTube. Like I said, he was very public about using hyperbaric oxygen for traumatic brain injury, and it is a real thing. So that's our first Naturals in the News. Our next headline: a proprietary amla extract offered significant support for blood sugar and cholesterol. And that was a very recent study. This was published on February 8th, 2023. And this study found that a proprietary amla ingredient called Sayberry supported blood sugar parameters in diabetic subjects. This was a 90-day multi-centric randomized open label trial. There were 124 newly diagnosed diabetic subjects between the ages of 30 and 65 with diabetic dyslipidemia. They were randomized to receive either 1 gram per day of the amla extract, 2 grams per day of the amla extract, or 500 milligrams per day of metformin for 90 days. So just for any of those of you who are listening and don't know what amla is a berry that's been in Ayurvedic herbal medicine for a couple thousand years. It's part of a formula called triphala, and triphala is these 3 fruits, and amla is one of the fruits, and it's very sour, but it's been a part of Ayurvedic herbal medicine for millennia. So the results show that all the treatment groups saw significant reductions in fasting blood sugar and postprandial blood sugar, hemoglobin A1C, and lipid levels. Subjects receiving 2 grams per day of the amla extract had significantly higher reductions of all those 3 markers compared to metformin, and 1 gram per day of the amla extract. Reductions in LDL and total cholesterol were also significantly higher among those taking 2 grams of the amla extract compared to 1 gram per day of amla and compared to the metformin group. This is a really kind of a groundbreaking clinical trial because a lot of endocrinologists give metformin for kind of early onset of prediabetes, and it can be very effective in managing the entire complex of blood markers that are related to people who have type 2 diabetes or have that kind of pre-diabetic situation where their cholesterol is high, their A1C is high, their blood sugar is creeping up. So I think it's pretty great. You can go look up this clinical trial. It is entitled Novel Emblica Officinalis, which is amla extract containing B-glucogallin versus metformin. It's a randomized open label comparative efficacy study in newly diagnosed type 2 diabetes patients with dyslipidemia. It is published in Food and Function, and you can go find it on the web. Pretty great. I'm pretty excited about that piece. We're really lucky to have researchers looking at our ancient herbal medicines to see if they will measure up to our modern day issues, health issues. Okay, our next headline: insufficient good quality sleep during teenage years may heighten subsequent MS risk. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this is because I do have some of my adult clients bring their teenagers in to see me as an herbalist, and one of the things that we have multiple conversations about is, are you getting enough sleep at night? Now, with the onset of cell phones and computers, a lot of our youths are not getting the rest. They may retire to their bedrooms, but if their computers are there, which if their most of homework and writing is done on a computer today, but if their computers are there or their phones are there in their rooms, they may shut off the light even, but they may not be sleeping. And many of them are not. This is a huge issue. And this was a really well written article published in the British Medical Journal, January 23rd, 2023. Insufficient and disturbed sleep during the teenage years may heighten the subsequent risk of multiple sclerosis, suggested a case control study published online in the Journal of Neurology, Neurosurgery, and Psychiatry. I will say this, that although they looked at MS, there are other neurological issues that can develop without proper sleep. So the article goes on to say that MS is influenced by both genetic and environmental factors, including smoking, teenage weight, Epstein-Barr virus, sun exposure or the lack thereof, vitamin D levels. Those are some of our biggest eventual impacts on whether we develop MS or not. Shift work has also been linked to heightened risk of condition. So if you work the third shift overnight, that can increase your risk as well, particularly at a young age. But whether sleep patterns, duration, body clock disruption, and sleep quality might affect this risk hasn't been fully understood. Researchers want to explore this further. And a lot of the group of researchers that worked on this, they drew on population-based case control studies, epidemiological investigation of multiple sclerosis, comprising 16 through 70-year-old Swedish residents. So people with MS were recruited from hospital and privately run neurology clinics, matched for age, sex, and residential area, with 2 healthy people randomly selected. And this all was selected from the population register between 2005, 2013, and then again from 2015 to 2018. The researchers on this focused particularly on sleep patterns during the ages of 15 to 19. And the final analysis included over 2,000 people with MS and 3,000 without the condition in this age group. Participants were asked about their sleeping patterns at different ages, length of sleep on work or school days, at weekends or on free days. Short sleep was defined as less than 7 hours a night. So adequate sleep for teenagers, that age group that they were really looking at between age of 15 to 19, must be 7 to 9 hours. Okay, and long sleep is considered more than 10 hours. So changes in sleep timing between work school days and weekend free days were calculated during the teens years of ages 15 to 19 and categorized with less than 1 hour a night, 1 to 3 hours, and more than 3 hours. So did they sleep less than 7 hours, less than 7 to 10, or more than? Okay, and the study participants were also asked to assess sleep quality during those age periods. Did you have restless sleep? Did you have early morning waking? Did you get 8 hours, but did you go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, get up really late? So the average age which MS was diagnosed was age 34. Sleep length and quality during adolescence were associated with the risk of an MS diagnosis, which increased in tandem with fewer hours plus poor quality of sleep. So compared with sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night during the teenage years, short sleep was associated with a 40% heightened risk of subsequently developing MS. After accounting for a range of other potentially influential factors, including their BMI at age 20, smoking or non-smoking, and any other influential. Long sleep, including weekends or free days, was not associated with heightened MS. Long sleep. So if you slept 7 to 9 hours or up to 10 hours, it reduced your risk for MS by 50%. Okay, so for those of you who really want to know, what are some of the things that can give me good health moving forward? It's get a good night's sleep. I can't stress that personally enough with people. When you're young, you think you're Teflon. You think you're super people. And in some ways you are, because you're young and you have that on your side. But there's nothing that can fix not getting enough sleep. Go to sleep. Turn the computer off. Turn the phone off. Go to sleep. Okay? Very important to all you young teenagers. All right, moving on to the next Naturals in the News headline. Beet juice can increase muscle strength. This new study shows us. Okay, so I love beets. I love beet juice. It's sweet. To me, it's super sweet. Beets and other foods that are high in nitric oxide or potassium nitrate are a really interesting group of foods. There's a lot of research on nitric oxide in the bodybuilding channels, if you will. It's really important as you age to continue to work on body mass, right? Keeping your muscles healthy, reducing your atrophy. Young people, they don't think about these kinds of things. It's not important. But as you age, it gets very, very, very important to maintain good body, muscle, and bone body mass. Strength and overall strength becomes harder and harder and harder to maintain after the age of 40. That's right. 40. You may not notice strength losses until you're in your 50s, but you start at the age of 40 to lose muscle mass and strength. So, some things that you can do. Get a good night's sleep, like we were just saying. But beet juice, yes, has been found that beet juice, as well as other nitrate-rich food and drink, can increase muscle strength. So this study was published in Acta Physiologica and involved researchers from the University of Exeter in the United Kingdom and the University of Queensland in Australia, and also researchers in the United States. United States National Institutes of Health actually collaborated with University of Queensland and University of Exeter on this. This was a randomized crossover study. 10 men who were all considered to be healthy were asked to consume potassium nitrate or a placebo. Now, not beet juice, it's potassium nitrate, but beet juice is very high in potassium nitrate. These participants took part in, I couldn't do this, muscle biopsies at 4 stages. So they allowed people to do what's called punch biopsies in their muscles. Ooh. But it's the only way to, they said yes. They said, okay, go ahead, punch a little hole in my muscles to find out if there's more density or not, right? So they consumed either the potassium nitrate or the placebo 1 hour afterwards and 3 hours after. And finally, after that, after they've exercised and they've had their potassium nitrate, they looked at these punch biopsies. When the results were compared, researchers found that the participants who had ingested the potassium nitrate had more nitrates in their leg muscles for hours after taking the solution. The researchers also noted that those who had taken potassium nitrate saw a 7% increase in muscle torque and muscle strength compared to participants who had been given the placebo. So the researchers showed for the first time that nitrate levels in the muscle before exercise is related to the amount of force muscles can produce. So the study's corresponding author, Dr. Andrew M. Jones, professor of applied physiology at the University of Exeter, told Medical News Today some really interesting kind of items that they noticed during this particular punch biopsy study. Our researcher explained that it's possibly due to the fact that the muscle appears to use nitrate to improve its ability to contract using as much oxygen as possible. So they believe that converting nitrate, potassium nitrate, into nitric oxide is what turns on that contractile apparatus. Now, we've known about nitric oxide for a really long time in exercise physiology, but we weren't quite sure if we could take a food or a food that's rich in potassium nitrate and that it would convert to nitric oxide. But now, because of these people who gave their body to science basically, and allowed for these punch biopsies, we can see that indeed the body will convert the potassium nitrate, which is rich in beet juice, during exercise into nitric oxide. So based on the study, registered dietitians and also doctors of physiology agree that nitrates found in certain foods and drinks can actually help improve muscle strength. That's pretty great. How much that you have to take is quite a bit. But if you're into juicing, you can juice some beet juice and drink that before you work out. Spinach, arugula, endive, radishes, cherries, cranberries, grapefruit juice, tomato juice, carrot juice, and other leafy vegetables, they will increase in a juicing state. They'll increase your amount of potassium nitrate in the diet, and thus your body will convert the potassium nitrate to nitric oxide after you exercise or during exercise, and you'll get more strength, building an ability to build more strength. So I like that. I think it's a great idea. I love any research that says eat your veggies and eat a lot of them, and it'll increase your strength. So now we know for sure that Popeye had it right. He ate his spinach and his muscles were stronger. And that's a fact now. Okay. Next headline. Going for a walk outside found to have more mental health benefits than walking indoors. Now, this is a really interesting study that was done at York University in Canada. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because a lot of people will, they'll go to a gym and they'll walk on the treadmill, and that will be their workout instead of walking outdoors. And some kind of exercise is always better than no exercise at all. But the question for those who are in exercise physiology and for those who are in psychiatry and psychology is it better for us to just go for a walk outside, or is it better for us to just walk? So the question is, what's better, walking indoors on a treadmill or walking outside? And apparently the early outcome of this was published in Psychology and Psychiatry and Neuroscience, January 24th, 2023. And the headline says, going for a walk outside found to have more mental health benefits than walking indoors. So a team of researchers at the University of Victoria, working alongside colleagues from York University in Canada, found that going for short walks outside provides people with more mental health benefits than going for the same length walk inside. Their study, published in the Journal of Scientific Reports, the group asked volunteers to walk indoors or outdoors and then tested them before and after their walk. Prior research has shown that regular exercise can provide mental and physical health benefits for most people. But as researchers said, there's a little bit of a subscript note on this. Little research has been found or conducted to find out if exercising in different environments have more or less benefit. So to address this gap between going for a walk outside or going for a walk inside, the researchers designed and carried out a study that involved 30 college students, okay, and each of the volunteers took two 15-minute walks, either inside or outside. Each also had EEG exams before and during the walk. The volunteers performed a standard visual oddball task on an iPad to measure brain activity linked to memory and attention. And they also, to assess whether walking had an impact on mental performance, the researchers used grades on the oddball tasks that they did and changes in amplitude of neural response measured during these EEG exams. So they were looking to see if their mood enhanced, but if their focus and their attention and their ability to do tasks were enhanced along with other markers. The researchers found improvements in response times on these oddball tasks after walks, regardless where they occurred. Yay, right? Walking helps your brain. That's good. But they only found changes in amplitudes, which measured neural response times in those who had walked outdoors. So all changes were represented by increases, which prior research has shown. But researchers suggested that people gain more mental health benefits and better reaction times in cognitive function if they go for their walk outside rather than inside. Researchers acknowledged that their study was limited and that we need more studies to find out if exercising outdoors is better than exercising indoors. However, I do want to say this, that if you have bad weather, really bad weather, going for a walk indoors on a treadmill is better than sitting on the couch and being upset about the weather. So with that said, but I think that's really interesting that it has a really great effect on our brain. Okay, next headline. Propionic acid protects nerve cells and helps them regenerate. So propionic acid is a very interesting acid. It's a short chain fatty acid that occurs from digestion in the small intestine. And the reason why I'm sharing this today is because there are a lot of people who have neurological issues that develop, and this study was published in Neuroscience and Immunology, January 24th, 2023. And the types of nerve cells that were looked at were peripheral nerve cells, the nerve cells in the legs, the feet, the hands. There are ways to increase propionic acid in the small intestine. Certain foods that you can eat, you can actually take propionic acid, just like you can take butyrate or butyric acid. There's a real consideration for increasing foods that will increase propionic acid, not just for good gut health, but how it affects the nervous system. So I always have an eyeball on this. I have a lot of people in my practice who have, neural Lyme, MS, ALS, really advanced neurological issues that are trying to increase their overall wellness in their life. They're not looking necessarily to reverse their disease, but they want to be able to slow down the rate of the advancement of their disease and have an excellent quality of life. Oftentimes they find that with natural health and healing. But this is a really big consideration, propionic acid. Okay, so some autoimmune diseases attack the nerves in the arms and the legs. This Bochum-based researchers are pursuing a new approach to counteracting the damage that's done in the peripheral nervous tissue with some diseases. Researchers at St. Joseph Hospital in Bochum have shown in lab experiments that propionate The salt of a short-chain fatty acid can protect nerves and help them regenerate. The findings could be useful for treating autoimmune diseases that cause damage to nerve cells, such as chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, MS, etc., etc. Propionate is naturally produced in the intestine when dietary fiber is broken down. In previous studies, a team from the same department at St. Joseph Hospital in Bochum, Clinic of Ruhr University, Bochum, Germany, had already demonstrated that people with multiple sclerosis are deficient in propionate and can benefit from taking additional propionate. Accordingly, the substance could also be useful for patients with CIDP. The group headed by Dr. Thomas Guter and Dr. Peripheral, hopefully I didn't make a muck of that, from the neurological clinic in St. Joseph's Hospital, published the results in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences for the United States and the Americas. Propionate reduces cell death in cell culture experiments. CIDP patients suffer from sensory disturbances, muscle weakness, and quite a bit of pain. The causes of the disorder is not fully understood. The immune system starts attacking the nerves in the arms and the legs. The nerve sheath, or the myelin sheathing around each nerve, is like an insulation that coats the nerve cell. Just like the wires in your house have kind of a insulation around the wires, okay? What happens in these people is that nerve sheath is broken down and eventually the nerve cell dies, and it's extremely painful. The drugs that are currently available in the market are very expensive, and they primarily act on the immune system. And a therapy that protects the nerves and aids in regeneration is not yet available. So, in the current study, Dr. Guter's team has now explored the protective effects of propionate in cell culture and in animal experiments. The group isolated the two most important cell types in the peripheral nervous system from rats. These are called Schwann cells. And the latter form the sheath of the nerve cell called the myelin sheathing. The researchers cultivated the two cell types separately, exposed them to oxidative stress. The team treated some of the cell cultures with propionate and compared the effects with untreated cultures. Significantly fewer cells died in the treated cultures. In addition, the cells grew back more readily after treatment than when there was no propionate that had been administered. Animal experiments confirmed these results. After administering propionate, the nerve cells had better protection against oxidative damage. These researchers also gained new insights into the mechanism of propionate action. They showed the substance targets on the surface of the nerve cells and the Schwann cells, and also affects the reading of DNA via histone molecules. This produces new enzymes and proteins that protect against harmful influences and help repair damages. So there's a lot more research that needs to happen. I'll keep an eye on this. It's very interesting and exciting. So again, our digestion plays a massive part in how our body, maintains its health. The breaking down of certain types of dietary fibers creates propionate, i.e. also short-chain fatty acids. So butyrate, propionate, these are crucial byproducts of digestion and the breaking down of dietary fibers. So I promise to keep my eyeballs on these and see where this goes, but it's very promising. All right, one more headline. This is the last headline today. New research links olive oil consumption and reduced autoimmune occurrences. This was published in Olive Oil Times, which is a journal, and it's a fascinating journal. And the reason why I like to look at it is because this journal is really not just about olive oil, it's about the Mediterranean diet. And there is a decreased prevalence of autoimmune diseases with people who follow the Mediterranean diet. This was published February 10th, 2023. One such finding is the relationship between phenolic compounds found in olive oil and the supporting function of immune cells. There was a new study that was published in Frontiers in Immunology, found that olive oil has antimicrobial properties that work against gut pathogens, preventing colonization and allowing for the proliferation of immune function. So our dietary omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids in olive oil suppress inflammation and promote beneficial gut microbiota. The study further explained that omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids decrease the presence of pro-inflammatory bacteria, leading to a reduction in an autoimmune response. So the prevalence of autoimmune disease has increased annually since the 1960s in the United States, actually worldwide. There are now more than 100 named autoimmune conditions. Autoimmune disease is caused by an overactive immune system that mistakenly attacks healthy cells in the body. And finding ways that are a daily healthy dietary choice that reduces risk for autoimmune is a really great frontier in science. We do know that the Mediterranean diet has the ability to reduce our risk for cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. But more recent research is showing that it may also have the ability to reduce overall issues with possible development of autoimmune. The one that's really growing at breakneck speed is autoimmune Hashimoto's or autoimmune thyroiditis in the United States. It has absolutely become unhinged. So not only do we have issues with diabetes, heart disease, obesity, now we have these issues of autoimmunity. And this study that was published in Frontiers in Immunology focused on the consumption of the polyphenols from extra virgin olive oil and its anti-inflammatory effects. So for those of you who are thinking about, again, your overall health and wellness, trying to reduce risk of certain major issues that can occur, think of the Mediterranean diet and think of fresh extra virgin olive oil in your salad dressings, in your cooking, etc. All right. If you're wondering who I am, I'm Nancy, and I've had a complementary and alternative health and herbal clinic for more than 30 years, on and off, full-time. So sometimes part-time, sometimes full-time, depending upon what I'm doing. I've focused on difficult to treat conditions. I've also been a spokesperson and educator in the natural products industry for more than 20 years. For some of the more reputable and well-known companies in the industry, I'm in my practice now full-time. You can connect with me in person by going to my website at www.watersedgewellness.com or by reaching out to me through my social media sites. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You may find me as Herbal Answers, Supplement Super Sleuth, Water's Edge Wellness. I go by a couple of different nomers. I'll be doing this podcast 4 times a month, sharing perspectives of natural health and healing, and also interviewing key people and thought leaders in the natural and holistic health industry to hear their knowledgeable perspectives. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to and like the Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok of Supplement Super Sleuth or Herbal Answers, and share our podcast with interested friends and family, and let us know if there's something you'd like to hear me talk about by adding comments on any of the social media sites. All right, everyone, take good care and take care of yourself, and I will see you real soon.
Well, Super Sleuths, we've conducted a very thorough investigation of this case, and we've learned a lot. Fran, you can show us the way home now. What are you doing? Whoa! Fran, you're amazing! We're home! Tune in again for the next Supplement Sleuth adventure. Take good care, and Fran and I will see you soon. Say goodbye, Fran.